I should have known something was wrong the moment I saw the circus tents. They didn't look new or colorful or alive like the ones you see in posters. No, these tents were sagging, damp, their stripes faded into a sickly gray. The air around them smelled of rusted iron, wet straw, and something sweeter, rotten, almost metallic. But I was desperate. I had no money, no family to fall back on, and the sign outside promised work for all who dare. Good pay, room provided. It sounded too good to be true, but I didn't care. I walked past the crooked wooden sign that read Circus in peeling paint, and I told myself this was just another job. The man who greeted me didn't look like a man. His back was hunched, his skin stretched too tight, and his eyes never blinked. He smiled when I said I was looking for work, revealing teeth too sharp to be human. "Good," he rasped. "We've been waiting for you." I wanted to ask how they knew I was coming, but his hand was already on my shoulder, pulling me deeper into the maze of tents. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. The fabric of the tents trapped every sound, every smell. I could hear muffled laughter, high-pitched, broken, like glass scraping against metal. The air smelled of burnt sugar and something foul beneath it, like spoiled meat. He led me to a dim tent lit by a single flickering bulb. Shadows danced along the canvas walls, forming grotesque shapes that moved when I didn't. There, in the corner, sat a clown. His costume was blackened with soot, and his face paint cracked and peeling. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark, like two pale lanterns. He didn't speak. He just stared at me and grinned. The hunched man finally broke the silence. "You'll do well here. We need someone who isn't afraid of them." I asked, "Afraid of who?" The clown tilted his head, and for a split second, I swear I saw his jaw unhinge wider than it should have, too wide, stretching down his neck, before snapping back with a wet crack. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself I was tired, hungry, desperate. They gave me a cot in the back of a storage tent. That night, I lay there listening to the circus. I heard footsteps that dragged too slowly to be human, whispers that spoke in a language I couldn't understand, and laughter, always laughter, that rose and fell until it felt like it was inside my head. Sleep never came, and in the silence between the laughter, I could hear breathing. Not mine, not outside, but right above me. By the second night, I realized this circus wasn't a place for entertainment. It was a trap. The workers weren't normal. Some wore masks sewn into their skin, others walked on limbs bent the wrong way. None of them spoke to me, but they all watched. Always watching. My job, as they called it, was simple. I had to clean the tents after performances. But there was never an audience. No ticket lines, no crowds, no children with cotton candy. The stands were empty. And yet, every night, the show went on. I would walk into the main tent and see the performers juggling knives, swallowing fire, twisting their bodies into impossible knots. And the clowns. God, the clowns. They danced in circles, their painted faces cracking, their glowing eyes fixed on invisible spectators. And when the act ended, I had to clean. The ground was always sticky. I thought it was spilled drinks, but then I noticed the stains weren't red like soda. They were darker, thicker, blood. One night, I lingered too long. Curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see what happened after the show. The lights dimmed, and I heard chains rattling. From beneath the stage, they dragged something out. It wasn't human, not anymore. Its skin was pale, stretched, and its mouth had been torn into a permanent grin. The clowns surrounded it, bowing, laughing, whispering, and then they tore it apart. Not with weapons, with their hands, with their teeth. The sound, wet, tearing, cracking, sucking. I gagged, but I couldn't move. Their glowing eyes turned toward me, and I realized they knew I was watching. I ran back to my tent, heart pounding, throat burning from bile. But when I crawled into my cot, I found something waiting for me. It was a balloon, red, perfectly round, floating in the center of the tent. I reached out to touch it, and it burst, not with air, but with blood, splattering across my face. And from the shadows, I heard that laughter again. Louder this time. Closer. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next day, the hunched man asked me if I was enjoying my stay. I tried to leave, but the circus gates were gone. Where there had been an exit, now there was only endless fog. I ran until my lungs burned, but every direction brought me back to the same sign, Circus. I wasn't free. I was part of it now. By the third night, I wasn't sure if I was awake or dreaming. My body felt heavy, my thoughts clouded, but the circus never slept. That night, they dressed me in rags and smeared white paint across my face. They didn't ask me, they forced me. Cold hands held me down, smearing the paint until my skin burned. The hunched man whispered in my ear, "Now you belong to the show." They dragged me into the main tent. For the first time, the seats weren't empty. Shapes filled them. Dozens, maybe hundreds of figures with hollow faces and gaping mouths. They weren't alive, but they weren't corpses either. They moved in jerks, like puppets controlled by invisible strings. Their eyes never blinked. Their applause was the sound of bones rattling, and I was shoved onto the stage. The clowns surrounded me, circling, their laughter echoing in my skull. One of them pushed a knife into my hand. The handle was slick with something warm. They gestured toward the center of the stage, where a man was tied to a post. His face was hidden by a sack, but I could hear him whimpering. The crowd demanded a show. I shook my head, backing away, but the clowns closed in. Their teeth gleamed, their nails dug into my skin. I knew if I didn't play along, I'd end up like the man beneath the sack. Or worse, like one of the puppets in the stands. My hands trembled. The knife slipped, and then the sack was ripped away. It was me. I was staring at myself, gagged and bleeding, begging for mercy. The crowd roared. The clowns cheered. And before I could drop the knife, something inside me snapped. My hand moved on its own. The blade sank deep, and the screaming didn't stop until my throat was raw. When it was over, the clowns clapped me on the back, congratulating me. The crowd faded into smoke. The corpse on the post dissolved into nothing. But the blood on my hands, that was real. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat on my cot, staring at my reflection in a shard of broken glass. My face was still painted white. My grin wouldn't fade. And when I tried to cry, all that came out was laughter. Now, I understand. I wasn't hired to clean. I wasn't hired to work. I was hired to replace someone. And tomorrow night, when the lights go out and the laughter begins again, I'll be on the stage, smiling, dancing, bleeding. Because in this circus, no one quits.
Subscribe to Horror Story